Right.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show, Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality Show, where I have interesting guests, I guess, a couple of times a week. Sometimes I have three of them, or it all depends on where I crowd it in. But I'm going to be busy, and I've taken on another responsibility with another group, iMix, and I don't know how much time that's going to take, but actually, when you're working in this field, and I just talking to my guest, Michael Osadona, he's going to be on today again. He's a return guest. I really like him, and a lot of you guys like him too. And I I talked about the internet being corrupt. I mean, there's people out there, admin people or whatever, that take advantage of you. If you go to my site right now, you'll find it's down. ADA violations. There is no such thing. I even talked to Michael about it, and he said the same thing. He's an admin. He's been in radio, TV a lot, and he knows all this stuff. And he told me the same thing. But I also had a good friend of mine from UK told me there is no such thing. He said Google does not send you a letter, or nor does anybody else send you a letter, ADA. And how can you how can you, like Michael said, how can you violate ADA on a website? How do you put, I'm not going to say anything. I love disabled people. Matter of fact, my family has worked with disabled people. I have played music for disabled people. We've raised money for disabled people. I love doing things for these people. And ADA, I looked at that. That was a slap in the face. But all right, beyond that, I'm not pissed off about too much other stuff, except maybe the world and what's going on in it. I think everybody is, and then you think about life and death, and you think about, wow, this is a crazy world that people can just die. And well, Michael had a good explanation for it. But here's my guest, Michael Sedona, great guy from Arizona, and I love that state. Michael is a multimedia developer, songwriter, screenwriter, musician, engineer, programmer, animator, TV show host, and a scientist contactee. Michael is an author of software, a teacher, an electrician, and an electrical engineer. You can see his shows on truthon.tv, and especially Sedona UFOs TV, Sedona News website, and his tours on Arizona UFO tours. If you go to Sedona, he'll take you on the tour, and he has a good tour. And he won't tell me about a lot of the elites that he's had on that tour. That's a top secret. Sedona is a magical place, and he loves it. I love it. And thank you, Michael Sedona, for coming back on the show. It's always interesting. What's on the top of your mind besides with me here sitting here, complaining about everything in the world and the internet even?
No, what you do is you bring things to the surface and topics to the surface that most people are thinking about, but really don't get a chance to discuss with anyone because very few people are in the luxurious position to have themselves surrounded with very intelligent people that you can talk in depth on fringe conversations with,
Mm-hmm.
and not have them run away or change the conversation to the latest sports team or something ridiculous like that. So um, I think that having a circle of people that we can communicate like that with, Dave, is very important, and I think that's why you do what you do, and why my Sedona News show just went weekly, because people are just clamoring for more information. And I used to do it monthly, and then I went to semi-monthly, and now as of Sunday, it's coming out every Sunday, weekly. Sedona News,
Yeah.
and
Michael,
it talk about the same kind of things I think that you do probably.
yeah. Well, what platforms do you use?
Well, I have my own server,
Yeah.
so I don't have to use anybody's anything. Um, so I have all these URLs. I think I told you I have 54 domains. I'm
Yeah.
an admin, I
Yeah.
guess you'd say for sure. And gave you like sedonews.website, Arizona UFOs.tv, .tv, Sedona UFOs.tv, just a whole lot of stuff. But my news show just also started running on Rumble. Now, why would I do that? Well, you see, Rumble has commercials.
Right.
And what I want people to do is see a Sedona News on Rumble and go, damn, I wish I could do this without commercials. Hey, guess what? My whole TV channel has zero commercials, and it's a subscription thing, but it's less than $1 a week, and you get 240 hours of documentaries that are banned on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube,
Yeah, right.
and you get F Troop and Get Smart and the Lucy Show and Rocky and Bullwinkle and all that kind of stuff. No commercials, on my channel. So,
Yeah.
I just kind of want to chase people in my direction, and if I got to use YouTube's commercials to do that, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's how you do the numbers thing, manipulate the algorithms. But yeah, we were talking about life and death. And as you get older, you see a lot of people around you sick and dying. There's a lot of that going on now. A lot of cancer, they say, is up big time, and it just scares everybody. And I got family members, that are not doing well, and I think to myself, this is life. This is what life's all about. And then when I was even younger, I thought about, if God's a good God, why does he kill little kids and other people? And Michael, I think he had an explanation that kind of fits what I think too. Michael, could you tell us a little bit about this? Why is what's happening to us here on this planet?
You got to bring me back to the cancer thing, dude. Okay. So, um, children, innocent people, whatever, die every day all over the planet by tripping and hitting their head on a porcelain toilet, to getting hit by a car whose front end falls apart, to an airplane that crashes or whatever. These are innocent people. And so why would a creator create a play field that would have those kinds of incidents occur? And it's because the creator, when creating this verse that we're in, the one we're in, that we call universe, and the mathematics are what the mathematics are in this verse, but not in other verses. All that creator did was take a void and apply a set of frequencies to it that have derivatives and derivatives and derivatives. And those frequencies are instigated by an extreme 11th dimensional creature that it's easy to personify. So I don't want to go there. So I'm going to try my best not to personify this being, or this collection of energy, and it set up the play field. It's up to the players what play they're going to run, what the defense is going to be, and then there's the things that aren't accounted for by the human, like an asteroid, okay, that comes down and wipes out a half of the life on a planet or something. So all of this is just the game playing out. The important thing to remember is that, especially in Earth humans and certain other planets on this side of the Milky Way that have humans, the second and third chromosome that were twisted together, that gives us 23 instead of 24, like gorillas and other intelligent primates on this planet, that makes this meat suit not the same as what we are. We are an energy, it's like a light inside this meat suit.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything is the biggest direct interface, it's the vagus nerve. So not even the brain, it's the vagus nerve. So we can talk about that on a whole another hour.
Yeah.
But that life force is exactly like, well, it's the image of the life force that is the creator. And so when the Bible, which was completely remanufactured stories in 325 for profit for the church, when it says, but it kept some very core information in there that you can go back to Hebrew and Sanskrit or Sumerian and pull up some original of the same phrases being used, but then a whole lot of it's all different. the um, image that the creator created is in us. It's also in a lot of other things. But ultimately, through intermediaries, the species that is Homo sapiens sapien has a direct connection to 11th dimension creator. How do I know this? Back to the cancer story. See how I segue this? So I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, metastasized throughout my bones in July of 2022. Maybe you knew that.
Yes.
Maybe you've gotten that. Okay. So I was told to get my affairs in order. And this was really before ivermectin and its comparisons were known about. Although the fringe knew for the COVID, which is a brand of fear, it doesn't even exist at all in the real world, was thrown out, the bio weapon that was thrown out in certain areas, and in the flu that was magnified because of it in certain areas. That ivermectin cured that. It was, no problem, done deal. So they had to hide the Nobel Prize winning ivermectin drug, 2 billion doses, not one side, a serious side effect other than an allergic reaction in anybody. And so they had to hide that in order to push their mRNA shots. Oops, I don't know if we're going to be on ScrewTube or not. I may say something you're gonna have to edit out.
Yeah, I know. YouTube is pretty. This is for entertainment purposes only. YouTube, and that's what we're talking about.
In my opinion.
Yeah, in your opinion, okay.
So what we have is this life force that's in us is the same. It's a microcosm. I tell people on my tours, for instance, that the life force within you is a micro hologram of the creator itself.
Yes.
In other words, if you take a great big hologram and you bust it into a million pieces and pick up one of those little tiny millionth of the hologram piece, what's in there? If you get close to it and look inside, what's in there? The whole thing, the whole picture. It's in there too. It's just dimmer and smaller and weaker, but it's the entire thing. And so when you really get a grasp on that and understand the mathematics and the physics of it, things like cancer become mathematically manipulable out of your system. And I've been a year, several blood tests with no marker at all in my blood.
That's great.
For the stuff, and it's primarily ivermectin and fenbendazole and of course I changed my diet from primarily potato chips and Mountain Dew. Hey, look, guys, you can do this in your 20s, but it's going to get you later if you don't change it. So I got out of that, got into strictly clean foods, growing as much as I can, buying clean foods, bought a half a cow of grass-fed, grain-finished beef out of Eager, Arizona. I mean, just, the best stuff. And I wish I could give a plug for him, but I can't remember what he's calling himself. But
I thought you were going to say you got some beef.
Yeah,
you got some beef out of your backyard. I thought
it's so good. Yeah, well, I'm in Sedona, and he's, as if I flew, it would only be about 50 minutes. But it's kind of winding in 3.5 hours by road to get there. But I convinced him to deliver to my house anyway.
Oh, wow.
I am gonna plug this guy. He's got really, really good beef. Anyways, it's important to get clean food, and you can't get it at a mega grocery store, hardly at all. I'm not going to say you can't at all, because that would be making an extreme statement that I can't possibly back up.
Yeah.
But I would say that the whole center aisles in grocery stores, the big brand grocery stores, are full of the worst polluted, processed food you could possibly get. So it's really worth getting an education on, so that you don't believe this or believe that, because the word believe has the word lie right in the middle. You want to know. And so the fewer items that are in a food product, the better chance is going to be not bad for you. Okay. Right. Some is really bad, really bad.
Right. I want to throw another small package at you. It's like us when we was kids. We'd take a paper bag and we'd light it on fire with some poop in it. and then people come out and stomp on it.
Stamp
Well,
on it, right? Yeah.
this is the package I'm going to throw at you now about this life and death thing. Are we in a matrix? And some scientists say this is a prison planet, and this is where we learn and to be a better person. And we talked about the Bible a while ago. Is there a heaven and hell, Michael?
Okay. So
Packet.
thanks for the questions. You got a lot of questions there. The heaven and hell thing. Okay, so the heavens is technically everything over 50 miles above the surface of the earth. And the below that to the surface is the other thing. And I'm spacing it now. No, not hell. It's the
purgatory.
Other part of the earth. No, it's the other part. It's the breathable part of the earth. Above that's the heavens. In the atmosphere is called another thing. Okay, so hell didn't exist as a word until quite a bit of adaptation from Gehenna, which was the area on the outside of communities, on the extreme outside of the communities where they would burn and bury the dead, okay, to try to keep the smell away from the inside of the communities. And so they weren't necessarily dug very deeply. And so the dogs from hell would be the wild dogs that would dig up the bodies and drag them out and tear you apart or whatever. And it was like the eternal flame hell thing came from you burnt the bodies. And so there was always somebody dying. And so like, at least once a week in a community of 200 or so, somebody's going to die. And so you go and you have to, dig and burn. And so there's constant burning. And so that got turned into hell. And that is the story that exists today in some way or another in a lot of, I'll say incomplete knowledgeable churching mechanisms. Okay.
Yes. So, religions, I think they start most of the wars. We fight because of those. But I wanted to ask you too.
People ask me a simple question about religion. And I say religion is merely an item of truth that's been taken out of context, surrounded with a bunch of lies so that men can control women.
And fear.
There's more there. There's of course that's everything. That stops all progress of mankind is fear. Let's go back. You had a string of questions though. And
the Matrix and the prison planet.
Yeah. So this is a this verse is an energy game. So on the outside is hyper energy, He, big capital letters, He. Okay, so now you realize who I'm talking about. And that entity supplies hyper energy to the outside of the verse lining. This is a sphere. Anything over 3 sextillion tons is a sphere in mass, and the verse itself is, of course, much more than that. So it's a sphere. And that sphere has this hyper energy being applied to the outside, which derives down to energy on the inside, and that energy squeezes down depending on the condensation of the energies and the sub-environment it's put into, to eventually you get down to three-dimensional, which is what we call solids, liquids, and gases. But that's the low end of the totem pole. There's also non-corporeal collinear energies at fifth dimension. There's also lower angelics at seventh. There's also upper angelics at ninth. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on that we don't even pay attention to, because first of all, very few people have taken the time to leave their body and go out into space and see things. And that's a shame. It's a shame that we're not taught that. Fortunately, I was gifted that at 12. I started doing it at 13, going out and dropping into other people's houses and seeing what they had, and then telling the kid at school that that's a very interesting aquarium with purple fish and stuff, and never having been at their house, quote unquote. It was fun. But a magic trick, right? So it isn't. We all have the ability to do that, just like we all have the ability to heal ourselves from stage 4 cancer. And we all have the ability to heal other people that we've never met before and just talk to them on the telephone. All these things are outside of the 3D world in order to use the ether, which is what ties all of this together. There's no quantum. It's ether that was then buried in the 1880s so that you wouldn't know about the ether, and they started selling people on this quantum thing. Um, that that ether is what ties all energies together. That's the sun. That's you, the ball of energy that's in you that defines you, Dave. Me, everything, the dog, the tree, the rock has energy. So I'm not talking about AC/DC. I'm talking about like rocks, like when a think about it, when a volcano goes off and pushes out an igneous rock, should not some of the energy be remaining in the rock?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
when a sedimentary rock is compressed with millions of pounds or tons or whatever should not some of that energy remain in the rock? Of course it does. It's just a different kind of energy than you see when a heart beats or a lung breathes.
Yeah. I saw something here, Michael, on the internet, and I think it's legit. It's when you're cremated and they have your ashes, and they put it under a microscope and they see like black and then sparkly. It's the body kind of like sparkles in this dust. They can actually take that dust and ashes and I guess put pressure on it and actually make jewels out of it. Some people are having jewels or rings made out of their past loved ones. And I don't know how real that is, but I saw that. I just thought that I'd throw that at you to see if you heard
Well,
that.
what's left when you burn is primarily the carbon
Yeah,
that's within us. What is a diamond, Dave?
it's carbon. Yes,
All right.
it makes
So
sense.
if you throw in copper and magnesium and a little titanium and and you can press it, what are you going to get? You're going to get a colored diamond, right? So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's very possible.
I don't know how big it would be, but it would definitely
Yeah,
have the potential, if you put
yeah.
enough pressure,
Are
because we're
we in?
making
Are
our own perfect diamonds now. So
Yeah. Are we in a prison planet, and are we here to we're here to learn and be, and our souls are supposed to pick up what human life is all about. And actually, we talk about the Bible, the biblical process. Jesus, I don't, we don't know exactly who Jesus really was. We don't know if they wrote it up or whatever, but there were some words like love, kindness, and forgiveness that he put out there. And he also said that, when the typical thing about the cross is you're born, you live or thrive, one of the two, that's your choice, and then you suffer, and then you die. That's where how I get life, in those segments, because unless you are in a car accident or something happens real quick where you don't have much time to suffer, but you do realize, what you're going through. There's a lot. I've seen a lot of people do that, but Michael, what do you think about that? The words that those are the truest words I've ever heard through the Bible. So
interestingly, the number one message from the three Cruxian extraterrestrials, that if you've seen a previous episode, you guys out there, if you've seen a previous episode of me talking about this with Dave, um, the number one thing that they communicated was why we're here on Earth. And the short answer is we're here to do for others. Okay. That's the derivative. The integral of that is that what we're here to do is collect experiences into this particular design, because this particular design doesn't see reality, Dave.
mm,
We see a perceived reality. We like you saying, my wife's leaving. We see a reality that's been altered by filters of fear, experience, prejudice, hate, love, joy, prior false intake of basic information that make a foundation that everything else is built on. There's a whole lot of stuff. And so the creator Okay, this is going to get a little big here. Okay, the creator made this adaptation of us possible through the intermediaries because almost everything else sees the reality as reality is. Excuse me for just a second.
Allergy.
Uh, she opened and closed the door and dust came in. It's windy here right now. So what we see is not reality, but other beings see because they don't have this broad range of emotions. We see a perceived reality, and if you think it's not true, talk to any investigative officer who's taking witness testimony of an accident, and they interview five people and get five entirely different things that happen. That has to be that way though for us because otherwise the creator couldn't grow. And for the creator to be alive, and we know that creator's alive, for the creator to be alive, however, it doesn't grow physically because it's not in the physical world. It grows through data. And if all we saw was reality, Dave, here's where it really gets weird. If all we saw was reality, then our existence would be meaningless to creator because it already knows reality. Mm-hmm. It knows all the math, every way, every position, every chess move, 95 layers of chess, everything that ever is. What it doesn't know is that there's a pigeon that'll come on your chessboard and poop on it and knock over all the pieces and say, I won. That's what humans will do, okay? Yeah. And then call that a win. And so when we go back, when the light leaves the meat suit and we go back to creator, we take back all these experiences that we called our reality that wasn't reality at all, and it's all new. The creator couldn't have known it because it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And so then why exist and be good or bad? Well, wouldn't you rather have a life where you took in more joy and experiences and dump that on God rather than being evil and all that kind of stuff and taking all the hate and all that and taking that back to God or creator or whatever you want to call it? That's how I was given the data from face-to-face ET contact on that very thing.
Well, let's talk about.
I asked why laboratory Earth, basically.
Right. Let's talk about how the ETs, extraterrestrials, fit in. And I told you about this Representative Paula Anna Luna.
Yep.
She's on the Disclosure Committee, nice. Representative, and she's been the one doing a lot of talking. Representative Comer, he doesn't do much talking, so they let her be the mouthpiece. And she has not seen a portal or spaceship personally. However, she said, have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? This was on Joe Rogan show. And this article was published by MUFON International. I have to put the credits to that MUFON International, Joe Rogan show. And she said, yes, she has seen these types of aircraft and there's historical significance to this. And she said, yes, based on the photos that I have seen, I'm very confident that there is things out there that have not been crafted by mankind. These energy things, it's funny she mentions that, these energy things, I think they can actually operate through time and spaces that we currently live or have. That is not something that I came up with on my own. That is based on the stuff that we have seen. That is based on information that we have been told by whistleblowers. When you talk about interdimensional aspects, this is interesting. She brings up interdimensional aspect of these things pre-existing outside of what we currently know as our own dimension. You just talked about that. That stuff can kind of sound crazy. And at the end of the day, my job as an investigator is to receive all the information and decipher it. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe were very credible people have reported that there have been movements outside of time and space. So she's talking about, I don't know what she's talking about here. Time. So she's being elusive in some of these things. She's a time and space and movements out there and everything. So, and it's I think what she's saying though is more than anybody else has been saying. She's talking interdimensional beings instead of ETs. What do you think of that article in which she said, Michael?
Well, there are many, many different kinds of beings. So many that Earth is a zoo, and it's barren compared to the life all around just this galaxy. And just about 12 light years away from us is a group of beings
Yes.
like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the Cruxians that I met. 3 of. They're 8 feet tall. And like all spacefaring beings, they're telepathic. Nobody speaks. Even humans on other planets don't speak. We were bastardized and had our pineal shrunk and enshrouded in such a way that we had to develop vocal cords to communicate because we all used to speak one language. Tower of Babel has nothing to do with people talking. Tower of Babel is about everybody communicating telepathically. And that became a problem because we could all get in sync. And once 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 of us get in sync with a single thought, we can change we can physically manifest out of energy. There's all kinds of things that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that had to be broken up in order for this experiment planet to continue. Otherwise, we kind of would have, in a way, ascended right out of it, leaving the bodies behind. When you ascend, by the way, you don't take the meat suit. There's no way to ascend and take the meat suit.
Unless you're abducted and a tractor beam pulls you up into the ship. That's one way that they can
that's
do
being
that.
Lifted. That's being lifted. That's not being ascended. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So, as an ascended master, you're not really ascended. Your mind can be ascended, but you are not ascended because you and everything else is still corporeal. The people who have ascended have left behind a pile of ashes. It's called rainbow body, and they have left. These are people that sit on a mountaintop for 40 years and hardly eat or drink anything, and just focus on one thing in order to do that. I have too much to do here. I don't want to do that. I got too many people to wake up. But the back to the ET thing. There are other dimensional beings, and the Cruxians, by the way, were 5th dimensional beings who slowed themselves down to 3-dimensional. And 5th dimensional beings can slow themselves down, some of them, to 3-dimensional beings to look like anything that they want to, because the look is not determined by the DNA. The look is determined by their consciousness. So when somebody says there's a shapeshifter, no, there's not a shapeshifter. There's no such thing as a 3-dimensional shapeshifter. What there is a 5th-dimensional entity pretending to be a 3-dimensional entity, and something slips or it personally shifts. So while they're in 3D form, they can hurt you in 3D ways. At the same time, they have all the power of their 5D telepathic, telekinetic abilities to levitate you out of your bed and float you down your hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you this because I read it in a story. It happened to me.
Yeah, me too.
So when this kind of stuff goes on, you gotta say, okay, look, it doesn't seem to make sense with what I've been taught, but it happened to me. Therefore, what I was taught is wrong. Yes, you're allowed to do that, people. Don't cling on to something you've been taught just because you were taught it. Chances are it was wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different beings. I think they say there's 4 or 5 different extraterrestrial beings living here on this planet. They've been here longer than us.
Let's
Uh,
bust this open. There's 100 species of extraterrestrials visiting our space stations. Our 7 classified 21,000 miles up space stations
mhm.
that don't reflect light. You have to approach by sensors that work in gamma ray. But they're
Is that the
seven,
secret space program?
yeah, they're formerly SSP, now highly classified space program, Space Force, the levels that don't answer to the Air Force. So we've got a Space Force, kind of like a NASA, right? That interfaces with all this down here. But then we've got the real deal going on. It's also called Space Force, that is above and classified above and beyond. And I can tell you about a lot of it because I never swore in on any of those projects. So I don't have to keep things secret that I find out through other means, whether it's through remote viewing or asking the stream of all knowledge, the path that the Cruxians gave me to answer any question on any topic,
Right.
or other ways that I get information that I probably shouldn't disclose. But I don't do the dark web. Okay, I don't do the dark web.
Yeah.
Dark web has
Yeah.
more lies than truth, you guys.
Yeah.
I'll frazzle directly is true. Anyways, the ETs really wanted us to do for others, and so getting back to that, that's so important. I don't want this to be glossed over. Doing for others means you find a way to help somebody and do it.
Mhm.
And it may take you 10 seconds. Wow, it's worth it
Yeah.
because
And
it creates a whole smile and remembrance, and that energy is in you, and that energy gets dumped back to the collective when you're done.
yeah, and it's important for us to. I had a brother who was around a person who just passed, and I told him by text. I said, "Well, you two, he was kind of like a stepson, but not really a legal stepson. But he was around him all his life. But I told him, I said, it's important that you take his hand, talk to him, and tell him you love him, and tell him, that everything's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I said, just give him comfort and do something nice for him while he goes, because the last thing that people know is who's beside him and who tells them what, because the brain lives 8 minutes after the body dies, from what I understand. What do you hear about that, Michael?
Yeah, there are still electrical. See, we're electrical beings.
Yeah.
The sun is an electrical being.
Right.
There are currents that continue after the heart stops, and the major detectable alpha wave of the brain is no longer available. There
Mm-hmm.
are still currents. Remember that vagus nerve I was talking about?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there are still, especially in there, currents that go on. And if you have a chance to see someone die in a clinical way, because you're going to not see it emotionally because your emotions are going to block it, you may see a light actually leave the body. If the person is on a scale, that scale may change by a quarter of a milligram as that energy leaves the body. So it's really interesting that the concept of prison planet and simulation is very easy to jump into, because we aren't really all here as what we see anyway. We're all energy, and it's the energy that defines every microcosm of ourselves and other things. The frequency, the energy, the density, the amplitude, the phase, and and that's everything. That's everything that everything is, and it's all mathematically related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all created by the creator.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
Yeah.
ET is very curious about humans. When we started doing the nuclear explosions, the non-controlled fission reactions, then the atomic bombs. That's what brought ET here, because those reactions, those space-time energy releases, are not only in the present and in the here, but they also are in the octave up and the subharmonic down. And that's another time space. There's a reaction. And so we have to stop doing these uncontrolled fission reactions. And there's been a visit from Valiant Thor and others who are trying to tell the humans, stop doing the nuclear stuff.
Mm-hmm. They say there's a lot of hybrid ETs amongst us, and they walk amongst us. I know I've seen a few in my time. I even actually see a couple now that I'm very curious about. They're quiet and they're aloof.
I
And
know one. I sat next to one. I read his mind for 45 minutes while we were both waiting for an interview at Open Mind Studios in Tempe.
Yeah.
He's very famous. You know him. Please don't say any names. I'll just drop a couple of clues and then people can go from there. He's a doctor, and he's well known for speaking on the topic of UFOs. Now, I'm not going to go any further than that.
Okay.
Like I said, I sat next to him and I read minds, and I understand the mathematics of every body that there is. I can just look at someone, and I can look at a picture of someone that isn't photoshopped and tell you that that's not photoshopped, or I can look at it and say that's been photoshopped. I understand the relationships, the golden ratios, the subtleties, because it's all mathematics. It's just how far you're willing to push the decimal point, and I'll go freaking forever to get the answer that I want, or an answer that I'm looking for, I should say. And because a lot of times you get no answer, you get no answer, you get no answer. You got to keep pushing the math, pushing the math, pushing the math to a finer and finer detail until finally that abnormality pops out. You go, aha, it's not a truth because there's an exception.
What about this little rule, Michael? When you run into somebody who you suspect might be otherworld, a human or somebody walking in a place of a human, and you sit there and you look at them and you say, you're an ET. And once you say that, they turn around, they'll look at you and they read your what you're saying. Does that work, Michael?
They have to understand English,
Yeah.
which is not likely. So what you have to do is you have to send a stream of video thought to that being. You poke that being right in the head as if you're going like this, only it's with thought. And gosh, I wish it was an easy way to, this is not I should do a series of telecommunications through telepathy. You have to create this video stream that may contain actual scenery, or it may contain mathematical relationships, kind of like a rebus puzzle. Okay, remember the show Concentration?
Yes.
Okay, you remember when they did the match, and then they matched, and then it would flip, and then behind all that, there's one message.
Yeah.
And there's a picture and a plus sign and a something else and a something. Oh, that's a rebus puzzle. Okay. So sometimes you have to create that kind of a thing because nobody speaks frickin' English. Nobody understands language out there in space. Okay. So you have to think. That's all. You have to think in the pictures that you're trying to communicate, because it's so much better, so much less ambiguous, so much faster. And like I said, in a 12-minute and some change download, they gave me the key to get any answer from any question out of the stream of all knowledge. And that key is probably a multi-exabyte chunk of data. And that's how I instantly translate a question and then pull the answer back out of the stream of all knowledge.
Yeah, in Sedona, I ran into several there when I took trips there.
I've seen a couple on the sidewalks too.
Yeah, and I know Sedona is loaded with these.
Generally, if you can get them to open their mouth, okay, you're going to know. Because number one, the teeth are different, the tongue is different, or the voice is different.
Yeah.
You're going to know. There's no matching this DNA from a three-dimensional non-human Earth being with the same teeth, the same tongue, and the same vocal sounds. So if they talk, sound, the teeth, look how beautiful my teeth are, and and the tongue is like not like too long or split or something, then they're human. They may go to places to get their eyes blackened, with dye and stuff just to look like an ET, but ultimately they aren't. There
Yeah.
are some, however, that generally it'd be more like a hiss because it's just an exhale for them. And uh, that with that, you'll recognize that they're not human.
Yeah. I just sometimes they've actually talked to me, but
Yeah,
most
yeah, I know that's yeah. I heard,
they
remember
don't.
that story? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but let's get to now.
I think that's a fifth dimensional being, not a three-dimensional being. Anyways, go ahead, Dave.
The body was also hot. The one that I met and personally talked to is in my book,
Yeah.
and body was really frequencies were really high. So I
They
guess
don't have the knowledge of 98.6. They just slowed themselves down from a pure energy being into a corporeal concentration.
Mhm.
And the endothermic, exothermic relationships of all doing all that. It's only a temporary that they can hold that anyway. Um, maybe a week, and they're going to have to go back to energy form and then compress themselves, as it were. So it doesn't surprise me that they would either be way hot, way cold, not eat anything, eat everything. It's like one extreme or the other because they don't live in that form.
Yes, that's what. Now we get now. This is all totally tell the audience here. This is totally we're not scripted. We're just talking just straight up. Going
Scripted. Yeah, right.
yeah. So I want to ask you about. We talked about Luna and we talked about the committee. They're not outwardly, admitting it, and they say President Trump. There's rumors that he knows about all this space, these ETs, and he has talked to a couple of them, and presidents have talked to one or two of them. The human, the human ones at the 5D or whatever. But who's holding up disclosure, Michael?
The people who run this planet, the people that have the human beings enslaved.
Yeah.
Yeah. A family that begins with P.
Right.
Uh, the 300. Um, it's primarily this. As long as humans will continue to be slaves, and this is my opinion, commentary only. If they continue to consume petroleum and pharmaceuticals, which are both the same thing, then we will never break into en masse into the spacefaring world, in the 3D spacefaring world. And to do that, like right now, we already have 2.5 million people on Mars colony. We have, it's 2017 and 20,000 people at that level of Space Force where they're going to the space stations and they're interacting with these other beings and things. We have, the medbed 0 point, all these technologies that everybody's been theorizing and working on, and I have working models of some of on my desk. Those those technologies have to become mainstream in order for us to be able to coexist at the next level. And this is so key, Dave. This is so important. Humans have to stop killing humans.
Yeah. Right.
As long as humans kill babies and humans kill humans and humans kill someone of a different color and humans kill, how the hell are we going to interact with those on other worlds? It's like
Yeah.
we're wild animals.
Right. Maybe it's the ET that are holding back and they don't want a full disclosure, but they're all
That's true. They told us how we could do it, and we refused them.
The consciousness, and you're talking about bringing people awake of from what history has been a total lie, and what this thing with extraterrestrials. And it's interesting also in Joe Rogan's comments with Luna, she mentioned Enoch, the book of Enoch. I think the CIA has a lot of study on that, and they're claiming that maybe that's probably where it all started with humans and extraterrestrial intervention with us. Michael, what do you
Of
think about?
course. Well, there was then this information is downloaded to me directly from ET. Okay, so take it as you will. There's corroborating evidence being discovered by lots of really cool people right now on this planet. There was 5 versions of this planet manager called Homo sapiens sapien, created by 5 different demigod beings to see which would be the best at running the planet. Okay, so the reptilians screwed up. They got kicked out, got a big rock thrown, all some went underground, most died, some left, and they still run the moon. But what was brought here was the Africans, the Asians, the Scandinavians, the South Americans, and the Arabs. And they were put in 5 different places, around 50,000 to 100,000 years apart at each interval. And were given pyramids for power, and were given knowledge of agriculture to keep them local. And it's a study. It was a scientific study to see which of these 5 were going to be the best at understanding the higher levels of matter energy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's what it takes to run planets. And so almost immediately, relatively speaking, like 5,000 years or less, the South American was recognized as having full understanding, and that was the group called the Maya.
Right.
And they were lifted off world by the feathered serpent creators of that variety of our species. And they were invited to leave, and like 90% of them left. And by the way, they're the ones who operate Oumuamua.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to ask you about we're getting
About Atlas. Yeah, I know. Make sure we got time. Yes. Okay. So the rest, progressed as they progressed and such, but instead of staying local, they tended to wander. And so we lost the control factor of the individual species. Lost it. And so the blending of the bloods and all that kind of stuff made it so now it wasn't the same experiment. And that's why when ET did come back here in the 50s, they started doing genetic experiments on people to see how their original design or their ancestors' original design of the humans had changed. And because we've been an experiment for a long time. We are supposed to control the planet in a way that perpetuates the planet as best we can. There are emergencies that are so big, things that can happen that are so big, like Venus coming into the solar system. When Venus came in, because it was a rogue planet. When Venus came into the solar system and came so near Earth that it tipped Earth 23.5 degrees, that was a major problem. It really threw, and the reptilians were running the planet at the time, and it threw this whole laboratory out of whack so badly that they had to bring the moon in to make a balance so that the Earth barely wobbled. And they did a damn good job, dude.
And was that the reptilians that did that?
Yeah. And they still own the moon. It's a big machine. The surface is only about 7 miles thick.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing thing that we landed on it,
Yeah. Oh, did we?
Yeah. With real spacecraft.
Yeah. Did we get
from ET? Real spacecraft. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
AT told us to get the
hell out.
Yeah.
And some of the astronauts said they actually seen ETs from a distance with a ship, and that scared them off. And
by the way, they know what the middle finger means.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what's so funny about the movie Paul, where it's got a photo of him with the middle finger up, because that's exactly what happened on the crater of Tranquility when um well, Neil and Buzz and the two pilots of the actual spacecraft landed. They had to interface with these beings that's like, no, we don't want you here. We tried to tell you that earlier. And of course, like 4 months later, Apollo 12 was already in, progress. And so they brought that one in, and it went, and they warned Apollo 12, look, and by the way, it wasn't, Apollo stays in orbit around Earth. Okay. The command module stays in orbit around Earth. The astronauts go into another spacecraft that docks or stays very close to a spacewalk into the other spacecraft, and that's the spacecraft that actually takes them to the moon. Because the shit that they tried to show us, that there's no way that but real spacecraft can, and we've had them since the 1950s. Real spacecraft, which are, there's photos of, you can see from the TR3 on back. So
Yeah, like I had George Haas on my show here a week or so ago, and he talked about the buildings on Mars, some of
yeah,
the square buildings and things, and
right,
he had some pictures from NASA actually released some of these, and NASA's hiding a lot from us. They don't
yeah,
let us know about they know about this deep space stuff. They also know about Oumuamua. You just mentioned that. How do
yeah.
you know that they were South Americans, Michael, on
They
Oumuamua?
were they were Mayans. This came from a Space Force contact of mine. There
Okay.
was not only Oumuamua, so yeah, Oumuamua went by, and then there was a second one,
Yeah.
and it was about a week behind it,
Yeah.
and nobody talked about that. It
Yeah.
was not media. It was right. I mean, I don't know if you know
I
about it.
don't even know the name of it, but they
They
do say,
didn't. They didn't release a public name, but
yeah.
it was a second ship, just like Oumuamua,
Yeah.
a pencil-looking thing. And our Space Force guys went out and interacted with it. We went out in our ship and met their ship, and because we have that capability, and we found out that they were kind of short, round-headed, brown, wide-eyed. I mean, far apart-eyed, on the bridge of the nose people that were basically the downline of the Mayan.
Yeah. Now that woman that they found on the moon, and she's got her lips and everything, I guess,
Yeah,
tied together. Is that real? Do you think, Michael? Is
it
that
was.
it
It
was?
was, but it no longer is, because as soon as they touched it and tried to move it, completely disintegrated into dust.
Really? Hmm.
Completely, because there's no wind, and it was in a moonquake proof environment. But as soon as they tried to move it, it's completely dissolved. And that was a female of about 6'8" stature, and had been there a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
By the way, what's more intriguing than the square buildings on Mars is the above ground light tube
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
designs.
Hmm.
They use it for transportation as well as collecting light and distributing light under the surface.
Hmm.
Yeah, because on the surface of Mars, it's like being at about 17,000 feet. So you got a point, you got about a 300, and you got about a 400 millibar atmosphere comparison. So it's about 40% of what Earth's is. And if you're a Sherpa and you climb Mount Everest without an oxygen mask, you can live on the surface of Mars for quite a while. Um, and if you're born there, as 2 million of the 2.5 million there now have been, then they are trained to be able to go out there. But it's those light tubes. It's like this almost intestine looking tubing with these bands that go around, and they protrude out of the surface and then go back down under the ground again. It's really quite amazing. And by the way, NASA means never a straight answer,
That's true.
or not a space agency.
Let's get to these scientists. I mean,
Uh-oh.
Mikio Pachio, what is it, Katsuo?
Kaku. Yeah.
Kaku. And then you got Professor Loeb from, from Harvard. And you got these guys weighing in, especially Professor Avi Loeb. He's saying that this AI Atlas, and this is our final topic, I guess, but because that's a big thing going on now, he said it's a spaceship. And he said that they've been taking readings from it, and it's ejecting CO2. And then they said the light comes from the front, and the dust comes from the front, not the back, like it usually faces. The dust is shooting towards the sun, and it's emitting its own light. And
How
then
is that different from a comet?
yeah, and they say they've been giving all kinds of dimensions, 8 miles in radius, and now 15 miles in radius. They really don't know. I
Okay.
guess.
So it's exactly the opposite of a comet is what that would be.
Yeah.
So because the trail is always away from the sun
Hmm.
with a comet, and what they're saying is the trail is toward the sun.
Right.
Well, that would mean that there is some kind of endothermic reaction that still ablates or is interacting with space dust. This could tend, okay, so I'm running the math now, so stand by. There's a lot of math going on here. This could make a spaceship in a cold fusion reaction chamber effect, but the thing is damaged. And here's why I know. It's going way too slow.
It's 130,000 miles an hour.
That's way too slow.
Really?
That's like, okay, Dave, listen to me. You're doing what, 60 miles a second there?
Yeah.
60 miles a second, and you're going to go 400 times 8, 3,200, 3 quintillion miles. Figure out how many seconds that is. Okay. So no. If it were within the we never saw it until it hit the asteroid belt, my former planet Tiamat, and then all of a sudden there it was, and we didn't see it before, but there it was, and it's slowing down. Then that would be something. That would tell me, okay, they're here to visit. They're here to inspect, do some research, see what the children playing with matches are doing on Earth today.
Yeah.
But to be just traveling through space at a measly 120,000 miles an hour or whatever. I mean, no, Dave. Now, when we go to other stars, we measure in C. We are now flying at 100 C with our E series TR3s. That's 100 times the speed of light.
Wow.
Okay, and the speed of light at 300,000 kilometers per second, 186,282 miles per second. You're going to go anywhere outside the solar system, you've got to have at least a 10C ability.
Yeah.
Unless you want to spend 1,000, 2,000 years in a body.
My question is this, Michael. If this was an ET craft, I think we would probably know from signals or frequencies, and they haven't talked about that. Half of the mainstream scientists say it's just a comet, and then you got Avi Loeb and a few other scientists are saying it's an ET craft. But my other thought is, if it's an ET craft, why doesn't it come through a wormhole or through a portal to get here, like most stuff?
Bend and unbend the time space like we do with our TR3s.
Right.
Okay, I'm asking the question, by the way, right now to the stream of all knowledge and getting back some information. This vehicle was involved in a war with us, and we blew it up. And it's coming through our solar system.
Okay, and where's it heading?
are not alive. It's not alive anymore. It's going around the sun, and it'll just, you know, it'll either um,
Burn up.
it'll either skim the gravitational perigee and go curving off, or it'll come right to the sun, past the sun, and use it as and have it be an amplifier, a speed amplifier, and have it go off. But unlike a Muamua, it'll go off in a very predictable direction because it's not being controlled by anybody. It's dead. It's a dead ship. And I'm sorry to say that. I didn't know that until now, and it makes me sad that humans would do such a thing.
That was thousands of years ago, right, Michael, that happened?
No, it could have happened last week.
Really?
I think it could have happened a month ago. We have had abilities to go interstellar with our military craft for a dozen years now.
I've heard that, and I don't doubt that.
So with that, if we wanted to go, let's say, out to the Oort cloud and meet something that's incoming and decide that with all our wisdom that it was a bad idea to let them in, and we yelled at them in English, and of course they didn't respond, and then we blew them up with some concentrated energy beam that we're not supposed to have, but we have, then that thing comes through on a slowed path on its way through. I mean, that's what I'm seeing, Dave. I'd like to be wrong. Yeah. Once in a while I am.
That's the first time.
It's usually about 3 times out of 100 that I'm wrong. So
I've heard that, Michael, that it could be a dead spacecraft just flying out there by itself. And these wouldn't it be something for us to go and retrieve this craft and see what it is? I mean, it's going so fast. I don't think they can actually do that. They'd have to blow it up in order to.
No, actually, you can just apply the same warp field that you use to bend the time space in one direction and use it in the other direction, and go in front of the craft, and it'll slow it down. Okay. There's Dave. I'd love to tell you about space travel and all how we manipulate energy to do things,
but it's been a great show. I know they're going a little bit over an hour now, so
okay,
because I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going on and on your platter. Could you tell us, Michael O. Sedona, where we can get a hold of your information and where we can find you?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that I use to get information out to people is Truth on TV, and that's a channel. It's my server. It's not YouTube. Nobody can censor me. Nobody can shut me down. It's my server. If they interrupt the power, I've got backup. It will not shut down. And it is truthontv.tv because it is a real channel. So it has a .tv, truthontv.tv. I also do Sedonews, which is available on Rumble, and also on sedonews.website. And my tours, which is a place where I every single night it's clear, get a chance to interface with people and answer their questions, is available through Arizona. Don't abbreviate that. Arizona UFO Tours.com. One button on the page. Bam. Read all about it. Make your reservation. I don't take money online. It doesn't hurt. Until we meet and we actually leave, I don't collect money. That's the way I do things. So that's the best ways. I'm available. Michael O. Sedona, look me up. I'm available all over the place otherwise, but those are the main ways. The TV channel, the tours, those are the main ways that I get information out that I've been given that only maybe 1 million other people on this planet have been given. And I'm trying to share it with 8 billion. Okay.
Yeah. And you're living in a location of Sedona that has a tremendous amount of frequencies going on there.
Oh, but they're natural. Unlike Las Vegas, which I can't even visit anymore because of the ambient frequencies. Mm-hmm. I have trouble operating my own heart in Las Vegas.
Wow.
It's just the weirdest thing. There's so many frequencies. Everything's bathed in frequencies. And I come back here and it's like, oh, my heart can move again.
So you're not a gambler, also. That's right. Okay.
Well, if I ever went, I wouldn't gamble. I would just win, and that's why I'd get in trouble.
Well, wow. Take me to Las Vegas with you, buddy. Hey, you've been listening to The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons and Michael Sedona. He's been here before, and we'll have him back again, and we'll be talking. And like I said, what we talk about is not scripted. It just comes off of one topic idea to another, and that's how we have conversations, just like you would sitting around having a few beers, or well, let's say coffee. Let's get coffee. You know,
Whatever you like.
whatever you like. Yeah. Michael Osadona, thank you so much for being on the show on A Strange Reality. And we're going to be signing off. And thanks to everybody who listens and watches this program. Thank you.